This is very good news for you that we have started a free Polity Crash Course. So what we have done, that we have divided these important topics of static portion in 18 topics. Right? So it will not waste a single second of yours. Right? So stay continued with these lectures and see how it boosts your confidence. Hello everyone, welcome to Arth IAS. I'm Amit Kumar. Friends, if you are preparing for Prelims 2025, then this is very good news for you that we have started a free Polity Crash Course to reduce your burden and to make the journey of your UPSC simple, easier. Right? So this is Prelims special crash course. Right? So it is solely dedicated to prelims, and this is free initiative. And what is it? It is Polity Crash Course. It will help you a lot in prelims 2025, right? And we have included only such important topics, right? No here and there, right? It will not waste a single second of yours, right? So stay continued with these lectures and see how it boosts your confidence, right? We have included all the important topics, all the relevant topics of a static portion, right? Here I would like to tell you that in Polity course, in this Polity Crash Course, we have included the static portion. Simultaneously, I will also tell you that while teaching you these topics, that why these topics are important, right? And why these topics were in news, right? So that you can correlate the static portion along with current affairs, right? So stay with us and see what it or how it is going to help you, right? And trust me, after watching this lecture, you will see the difference, right? It will even boost your marks in mocks and final exam also, right? So let's start, and first just see how or which topics we have included in this crash course, right? So we have, right? So just see the important topics, right? So what we have done, that we have divided these important topics of a static portion in 18 topics, right? So just see all these topics that we are going to cover in this course. So first we have included the basic concepts. Basic concepts means, as you would have seen the previous year question papers, that what UPSC asks even questions from basic concept. Basic concept means, for example, constitutionalism, constitution, rule of law, right? Democracy. All these topics we have covered here, right? We will start the lecture with basic concepts, and trust me, see the topics of basic concept. You will find that the questions, how questions come in UPSC, or how question may come from these topics. Then we will move towards the historical background. Here we will discuss the regulations, acts, commissions, committees, constituent assembly, right? Constituent assembly is very important, you do knowing, especially from prelims perspective, right? And here we will see what composition, committees, sessions, and criticism of constituent assembly. Then we will move towards the feature and criticism of Indian constitution. Also you can call it basic concept, right? Then we will move towards very important topic, that is preamble. You do knowing that directly question comes from preamble, right? For example, in 2017 there was a direct question from preamble, right? And in between I would like to tell you that we have already started previous year question papers discussion of polity section, and till date 4 lectures have been uploaded, right? And soon you will find another lecture, right? Now just see here preamble. Then we will see the union and its territories. Union and its territory, though it is a small topic, right? And citizen, right? Citizenship. Under this we will also study Citizenship Amendment Act 2019, NRC, National Population Register, right? These are smaller topics, but here this topic is very important. For example, this year, or article 19, right, is in news for last, you can say, 1 or 2 years. Even recently it was in news, right? Especially freedom of speech and expression related issues were there, right? Again, right to property was in news. So we will discuss or cover this topic holistically. Then we will move towards directive principle of state policy. You do knowing these are very hot topics, right? Very important topics. Every year UPSC asks questions from these topics. Then fundamental duties combinedly, right? If you are skipping these three topics, you are creating a blunder, right? Then we will move towards executive and see. In this course, we will study the executive, legislature, and judiciary simultaneously. Simultaneously means union as well as state, right? For example, when we will discuss executive, we will discuss union executive and state executive combinedly. For example, while discussing president, we will discuss governor. While discussing prime minister, we will discuss chief minister, council of ministers, then attorney general of India, advocate general, right? Combined. Right? This is how we are going to discuss. Next, when we will discuss legislature, in the same manner, we will discuss union parliament and state legislatures, so that it will be easier for you to compare the provisions. Again, it will be easier for you to retain these informations. Right? Again, it will help you a lot in your examination to recall these provisions. Right? This is how we have designed this course. Now, rest topics, just see. Then we will move towards the judiciary. Again, as I told you, right, that we will do all these important topics, right, from different levels, right? For example, judiciary, we will discuss Supreme Court. Simultaneously, we will discuss High Court, High Courts, and subordinate courts. Your topic of judiciary will be completed here. Then we will discuss union territories, panchayats, and municipalities combined, right? Then we will move towards cooperative societies, scheduled and tribal areas. Then we will discuss center-state relationship. Obviously, it always remain in controversy. For example, delimitation related issue is nothing but what? Again, it is in news. There is controversy among northern states and southern states, even southern states and central government. Right? Elections. Under elections, Election Commission of India, Representation of People Act 1950 and 51. Right? Official language and regional languages. Obviously, this topic is in news, right, this year. So there is high chance that question may be from this topic, right? And always I would like to tell you that don't focus only on current affair or polity. Whenever you are studying current affair topic or polity, correlate this current affair with static portion. What happens that if your static portion of polity is strong, no, even you can answer by guessing or elimination method of current affairs topic of polity section. Hardly one or two. For example, if UPSC has asked directly provisions of any recent act that has been passed, then you will, if you have not read, then it will be not possible for you to answer, right? But maximum number of questions of polity, even of current affairs section or topic, comes from static portion. So make the static portion very strong, very strong. Then we will discuss lastly constitutional and non-constitutional bodies, right? So that's why total number of topics we are going to discuss is 18 topics, 18, right? Now let's start the main topic, right? So as I told you that our first topic will be basic concept. Basic concept, here we will discuss constitutionalism, right? Elements of constitutionalism, significance of constitutionalism, does constitutionalism exist in India, right? So we will see all these things. Then we will move towards constitution. What is constitution? What are its functions, its objectives, right? What are qualities of a good constitution? All these things we will discuss here, right? Again, we will discuss different types of constitution. Again, under different types of constitution, we will discuss, for example, federal constitution, unitary constitution. Under federal constitution, we will discuss federalism, right? Concept of federalism in very detail. So stay with us, and you will feel at the end of the lecture that what you have gained. Even your single second will be utilized here, right? So let's start. First, right? So what is constitutionalism? Simple. So before starting about or talking about constitutionalism, I would like to tell you that it remains in abstract form, right? Abstract form means what? It is not visible, right? It is, that's why it is considered compared with what? Soul or spirit. Soul or spirit. Soul or spirit, whatever you can call it, right? Whereas constitution is body. So first, right? So what is the meaning of constitutionalism? Simply, what is the meaning? Four options may be given in your prelims, and the UPSC may ask that what is the meaning of constitutionalism? Simple. So you should know that it's the meaning of constitutionalism is government authority is derived from what? Fundamental law of land, that is known as constitution. Right? Simple. Government authority is derived from and limited by, yes, focus, derived from and limited by what? Fundamental law of land, that is constitution. Right? We have constitution. India has constitution or not? Yes. So in India, constitutionalism exists. Why? Because there are limit, or the government is limited by the constitution. The government cannot act in arbitrary manner. Whatever it thinks it can do. No, this is not going to happen, or it will not happen. Right? The government should act as per the provisions of constitution, and this reflects constitutionalism. Right? Why? What is constitution? It is the fundamental law of land. But here one thing you should remember, that first constitutionalism comes, and constitutionalism is more important than constitution. Why? Because it may happen that constitutionalism may exist without a constitution. Right? For example, Britain, it does not have a written constitution. In spite of that, constitutionalism exists there. Rule of law is there. Right? Government is limited. Right? People enjoy certain freedoms. Right? They have fundamental rights. In the same manner, right? So this is constitutionalism, the meaning of constitutionalism. Now, definition, what is it? It is ideology, theory, or practice. Right? And that governmental power is controlled by law. Simple. Law means what? Here, constitution. Why constitution? Constitution is fundamental law, or you can call it mother law. Right? No law is superior to the constitution. It is the supreme. Right? Again, ensuring that power is exercised within the defined limits and uphold rule of law and individual rights. Obviously. So there should be rule of law and individuals' rights. Means fundamental rights. If in any state or country, if there is rule of law and people enjoy certain freedoms, certain fundamental rights, then obviously it has constitutionalism. So one thing I would like to clear, that constitutionalism may exist without constitution. Example, Britain. Constitutionalism may exist or exist with constitution. Example, India, America. They have constitution and constitutionalism. Even third option is constitutionalism may not exist, in spite of that there is constitution. For example, any dictatorial country, dictatorial state, authoritarian state. Right? Though there are constitutions, North Korea, whatever you can take, or any authoritarian state. So they have constitution, but constitutionalism does not exist there. There is no rule of law. There is rule by law. Mark my words. There is difference between rule of law and rule by law. Rule of law means what? The state or country is governed as per the provisions of law. Law means here fundamental law, constitution. But rule by law means what? Any ruling party or any whatever the class or family who is ruling that state, right, makes law and rules that state as per their comfort. So that is called rule by law. Right? For example, North Korea is example of what? Rule by law. The ruler makes any law and it is implemented. But in India, or in any democratic country, there is not rule by law, there is rule of law. Even the lawmakers, legislators, or the legislative body have to follow the provisions of constitution. Right? Now, this was meaning and definition. Now, what does constitutionalism imply? Again, same type of option may be given in the prelims, right? And you have to answer. So just see, what does constitutionalism imply? Simply, the question may be that what does constitutionalism implies, right? And 4 options may be given. If you know, you can easily tick. It will take hardly few seconds, right? So for division of powers, not concentration of powers. So in any country where there is rule of law, there is again division of power. Division of power means what? Division of powers at different levels of government. For example, central government or union government or federal, at state level, provincial level, or regional level, or even at local level. In case of India, there is 3-tier government. No, this is called division of power, right? And also this division of power is also known as decentralization of power, because this level of government means union, state, or regional, right? They derive their power originally from constitution. So this, if the regional authorities or regional power government derive their power from constitution, then it is called decentralization, right? We will discuss 3 terms: decentralization, devolution, delegation later, right? Again, acceptance of plurality of interest of societies, right? Obviously, so the plurality of interest means people's interest is considered, right? For example, what is democracy? Also known as mobocracy, right? So it means the interest of plurals, right? Or the society is considered. That is the meaning of constitutionalism, right? Or it implies that. Next, no authoritative or dictatorial leadership. Obviously, there should be rule of law. If there is rule of law, there should be no authoritative or dictatorial government. But in absence of rule of law, there is authoritative. It means the state has authoritative or dictatorial government, right? So can you call China or North Korea having or has constitutionalism? No. Take example of North Korea. No constitutionalism, right? Because what happens there already we know. Next, minimum constraints on individual freedoms. Obviously, minimum constraints means minimum restrictions on individual freedoms. The more better state is, right? It means, or a better state or a good state has minimum restrictions on the freedoms of its citizens or individuals, right? And citizens or individuals enjoy freedom in a good state where constitutionalism exists. Simple, right? Now we will see elements of constitutionalism, right? Again, this is, or these elements are very important. Again, same type of question may be asked, that which of the following are elements of constitutionalism, right? So just see, first, rule of law. I already told you that if there is rule of law, it means there is constitutionalism. Absence of rule of law means no constitutionalism. Second, separation of power. Separation of power means what? This is called, listen, this don't, or what happens that even you students are preparing for 2-3 years or 1 year or whatever, but generally they have confusion between separation of power and division of power, right? So division of power, right, and separation of power. Division, when we say division of power, this is called vertical distribution of power, right? For example, union, state, or at any local level. Separation of power means it is called horizontal distribution of power. Horizontal distribution of power means what? Distribution of powers among 3 organs of state. 3 organs of state you would be knowing: legislature, executive, judiciary. This is called horizontal distribution. Horizontal distribution, right, of powers. This is called vertical distribution of power. Vertical distribution of power. Why? From top to bottom approach, right? And they originally derived their power from constitution, right? This is called decentralization. When regional governments or state governments and local authorities, local government derive their power, as well as union government or federal government derive their power from constitution directly, then it is called decentralization. Also here, separation of power means legislature, executive and judiciary, they also derive their power from constitution. That is the similarity. Constitution also or divides powers horizontally and vertically. Vertically means what? Division of power between union, state or local bodies. Separation of power between three organs of state: legislature, executive, judiciary. That is the difference, and it is called horizontal distribution of power. Both are derived from constitution. But here, this division of power, right, maybe, or it is also called as devolution or delegation. Devolution means when parliament, right, means when the legislature gives power to regional governments, then it is called devolution. When the regional governments, right, derive their power by executive order, then it is called delegation. That is the simple meaning, simple difference. Decentralization, devolution, delegation. Decentralization means when the governments, union and state derive their power from constitution, it is called decentralization. Devolution, when regional government derive their power from parliament, right, then it is called devolution. And delegation, when regional government derive or are given power by executive order, then it is called delegation, right? Now I have cleared your doubts. Now, next, checks and balance. So, where there is separation of power, no, they move combinedly, parallelly, right? To check the arbitrary action of any organ of state, right? There is checks and balance. For example, judiciary, legislature, or executive, they cannot act in the arbitrary manner. They have defined functions. Legislature to make law, executive to implement law, judiciary to review their actions. Right? Simple. Again, judiciary is also checked by legislature or executive. How? Executive, for example, president appoints the judges of Supreme Court, High Court. This is how there is a check on judiciary. Again, impeachment procedure, right? It starts only in legislature. So this is how legislature also controls judiciary, right? Their salary or what is pension also determined by the parliament. So this is how legislature and executive also checks judiciary. So this is called checks and balance, right? And judiciary also reviews the acts of whether legislature or judiciary executive. Next, supremacy of constitution. Obviously, though I told you that constitutionalism may exist without constitution, but it ensures supremacy of constitution, right? Protection of fundamental rights. I have written in short. So right. So fundamental rights and liberties. Obviously. Accountability and transparency. Accountability and transparency means what? When powers of organs of state or among union and state is defined, then it brings transparency and accountability. Right? Next, democratic principles and participation. Democratic principles mean what? Right to vote, free and fair conduct of elections. These are democratic principles and participations. Next, judicial independence. Obviously, in any country where there is constitutionalism or supreme constitution, there is judicial independence. Actually, judiciary is the defender of the constitution. Right? Judiciary has power to interpret the constitution. Take example in India. Right? The Supreme Court of India is one of the strongest or most powerful Supreme Court in the world. And it is also independent of legislature or executive. Right? Amendability of constitution. Obviously, a good constitution should not be completely flexible or completely rigid. There should be a balance, right? It should be or it can be amended, right, as per the demands or requirements of society and people. Right? For example, after independence or after framing of constitution, almost 75 years have been passed, and till date, Indian constitution has been amended 106 times. Right? So these are elements of constitutionalism. Now we will move further. Now, what is importance of constitutionalism? So again, same type of question may be asked, that which of the following are or reflects importance of constitutionalism, as certain options may be given and you have to choose. So ensures rule of law, obviously it is the most important, or you can say most important significance or element of constitutionalism, rule of law. Checks or limitation on government power, obviously constitution means what? Limited government, right? Government does not have arbitrary power or unlimited powers. It has restricted powers, right? No one is supreme, neither the state nor the government, only constitution is supreme. Protection of fundamental rights, obviously, and it is guaranteed by the constitution. That's why, listen, there are different types of rights, right? And if you want to know about the basic concepts of right, I have already uploaded a lecture on basic concepts of right. You can go and watch. I will give the link in the description box, right? So constitution or constitutionalism also protects the fundamental rights. Next, basis for governance, obviously I told you, separation of power, division of power, all these are nothing but it provides basis for governance. Promotes social justice. Social justice means what? Social, economic and political justice, right? Three types of justice. Again, strengthens democracy. Strengthens democracy means how? Free and fair election, right to vote. It ensures or strengthens democracy, right? Ensures federal balance. Federal balance means what? Division of power. Division of power, what is it? For example, 7th schedule in India of Indian constitution, 7th schedule, right? 3 list: union list, state list, concurrent list. So this list, right, these lists have certain subjects and they clearly demarcates the power of these governments. So it nothing but it try to ensure federal balance, right? That the union government should not intervene in the functioning of state government, and state government should not intervene in the union government's functioning. And at the time of requirement, they should what? Work joining their hands. For example, at the time of national emergency or any war, aggression, that time states should join hands with the center, right? Again, facilitates economic development, obviously directive principle of state policy ensures what? They try to ensure social and economic justice, right? Global significance, obviously global significance means what? If a country is strong, democratically strong, there is good governance, then what? It raises its what? Credit at international level, and this is how it also leads to several international or signing of several international treaties agreement confidently, right? For example, take or think about India, which was at the time of independence, and think about India now. You will feel the difference, right? Next, conflict resolution, obviously you will be knowing what? Who resolve the conflict? It is the judiciary, right? Whether it is among citizens, whether among union government and states, whether among different states, or whether among state and citizens. So all types of disputes are resolved by judiciary. And what is judiciary? An organ of a state, and it derives its power again from constitution or not. So these are certain importance of constitutionalism, right? Now let's move further. Now we have seen certain things about constitutionalism. Now again, the question may be in the next exam, that whether or which of the following reflects constitutionalism in India. So first the question is whether constitutionalism exists in India. Already yes, right? Because we have a very strong, powerful and good constitution, right? That's why there is limited government, there is independent judiciary, there is rule of law, right? No arbitrary action of government, and if sometimes it happens or it will happen, then there is judiciary to check their arbitrary action. People enjoy certain fundamental rights, and in case of their violation of fundamental rights by the state, right, or even an individual, they have what, article 32 or 226 to knock the door of judiciary, right? So just see what are the evidence or evidence of constitutionalism in India. So first we have written constitution, right? Written a constitution with supremacy of constitution. Generally what happens that if in any country there is written constitution, it ensures more constitutionalism as comparison to country with unwritten constitution, because written constitution clearly defines, demarcates the power of government or other organs of state and even fundamental rights, and what are the remedies in case of violation of fundamental rights. So there's, as India has written constitution, again it also have, or we have supremacy of constitution. No one is supreme or superior to the constitution, right? Even the government or state itself, or not, neither the judiciary, right? Rule of law, obviously rule of law means what, the state is being ruled as per the provisions of law. That is, here law means what, the supreme law, constitution. Fundamental rights, we have separation of powers and checks and balance. Obviously I told you that both moves parallelly, right? For example, this is separation of power, then this is checks and balance, they moves parallelly. Judicial review, obviously judicial review is what, it ensures independence of judiciary and checks the what, arbitrary action of state. Federalism, obviously federalism means what, already I told you, division of power between union or federal or central, whatever you can use, and state government, state or provincial, whatever you can use, right? And combinedly they derive their power from constitution, right? Next, decentralization. Decentralization, already I told you what is the meaning of decentralization. Simply decentralization means when constitution, right, when constitution give power to, at the upper level it is union, to regional or state, regional or state government, or even local self government, local bodies, then this is called decentralization, right? When regional government derive their power directly from constitution, then it is called decentralization. But when regional governments are given power by the legislature, it is called devolution. When regional governments derive their power by executive order, right, of union government or central government, then it is called delegation, right? This is the main difference between decentralization, devolution, delegation. I told you a few minutes ago, again I have repeated, right? Amendability of constitution, obviously article 368, right? There are certain provisions that can be amended by simple majority, there are certain provisions that can be amended by special majority, right? And again there are some certain provisions, for example provisions related with central state relationship, that requires special majority plus consent of half of total number of states in India. Lastly, independent institutions. Independent institutions with what, again for example election commission of India, independent institution, UPSC, independent institutions, right? So this was all about constitutionalism. Now we will move towards the concept constitution. So just see what is constitution. Again, very important. Why? Because UPSC gives a statement like this: which of the following best explains constitution, and 4 options may be given, right? So you should understand the basic concepts. That's why we have designed this course and started that discussion with basic concepts, right? And again I would suggest that there are certain topics in NCERT, I would tell you in discussion, right, that you should revise from NCERT, right? So first, what is constitution? Simple, in simple terms, and is an, even as an aspirant of UPSC, you do knowing in simple terms that it is called fundamental law or mother law of light. Simple, in simple terms, right? So it is a power map. First, power map means what? What is the meaning of power map? Power map means it clearly demarcates, right, divides power, right, defines or demarcates the powers of different branches of government. Different branches of government means what? Three branches: legislature, executive, judiciary, right? These are three branches of government. Listen, I would like to tell you something, very small thing, that do not get confused with the term state or government, right? What happens that they are used generally in legal sense interchangeably, though their meaning is separate, but they are used interchangeably in legal sense or while discussion. Why? Because government represents the state, right? For example, government of India, when at international level, when it is called government of India, it represents India. At national level, when it is said, for example, government of UP, government of Bihar, government of Tamil Nadu, then it represents the state. So while discussion, we can use or we will use the term government or state interchangeably, so don't be confused. That's why I clarified, right? Though there are fine lines, right, because government is what? A unit of state, but at national or international level, they represent the state. That's why we can use the term interchangeably, right? So it is a power map that defines powers of different organs of government. First. Second, a fundamental legal document. Fundamental legal document means, why fundamental legal document? Means all the legal other laws, acts, right, are framed on the or under the provisions of constitution. It is called mother law or fundamental law. Right? Why fundamental rights are called fundamental rights? Because those rights which are guaranteed by the constitution, which is called fundamental law of land, is known or are known as fundamental rights, right? That's why fundamental rights are called fundamental rights, guaranteed by fundamental law of land, that is constitution, right? So our framework that lays down basic principles, powers and functions of a state. Obviously very simple, means how a state will function, what kind of power a state has, right? All these are defined by the constitution. Next, it establishes, means constitution establishes the structure of the government, right? Structure of the government means what? Whether it is parliamentary form of government, presidential form of government, semi-presidential form of government, or which kind of form of government it is. It is decided by the constitution, right? Again, it delineates rights and duties of citizens. Obviously, on the one side or one hand, it gives authority to state, right? On the other hand, it gives rights to its citizens or individuals, and along with rights, individuals also have certain duties, right? So all these are also clearly demarcated or delineated by the constitution, and sets limits on the government. Obviously, constitution means what? Where there is constitutionalism, where there is constitution, it means what? Limited government. Government cannot act in arbitrary manner, right? Ensuring rule of law. So again, if government is, well, there is limited government, it means there is rule of law. There is arbitrariness or there is arbitrariness in the action of government, then it is called or absence of law, rule of law, right? Now lastly, not just a legal document, right? It means constitution is not just a legal document but a social contract. Social contract means what? If, for example, constitution, it has two sides, two aspects. What? On the one hand it is state, other hand what? You can call them citizens, or in general term you can use the term people or individuals. But there is a social contract between state and citizens, and this contract is what? The constitution. It gives authority to state, right, to run, so that the state can be run, ruled, right? On the other hand, it gives rights, certain rights to citizens, that they can enjoy their life, they can enjoy freedom, and there should be minimum restrictions on the individuals or citizens. Right? So it is also a social contract reflecting aspirations, values, and ethos of people. Right? Which kind of aspirations people have, right? Which kind of values people want or people should have. All these are reflected by the constitution. Right? For example, read preamble. It is philosophical part of constitution. Right? So when you will read or when you read preamble, right? So it reflects the aspiration, values, ethos of people. It says no, we the people of India having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Right? So it reflects the values, aspirations, ethos of people. Again, it talks about justice, social, economic, political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, worship, equality, fraternity. Right? All these reflect values, ethos, aspirations of people. Next, it forms the cornerstone, right? Cornerstone of governance and public administration. Obviously, right? Simple. Now, what is the purpose? Right? What is the purpose, or what are the purposes of constitution? Why we should have constitution, or why our state should have constitution? Right? Again, same type of a question may be framed on this topic. Which of the following are the purposes of a constitution or purpose of a constitution? 4 options may be given, 5 options may be given, and don't get surprised if you are going to attempt for the first time that in previous year question, right, it has given even 7 to 8 options. So if you find 5, 6, 7 options, don't be surprised. Right? Generally it gives 4 options, but in some questions it gives 4, 5, or 6, 7, 8 options. Right? So you should be prepared in such manner. So purpose of constitution. Foundation of governance. Obviously, if there is absence of constitution, it means it will but lead a very weak foundation of governance. Right? We have very strong foundation of governance because of a strong constitution. That is the beauty of Indian constitution. Right? Or any country which has very strong foundation of governance, it is because of the constitution of that country or state. Second, supremacy of law. Obviously, it is the supreme law. Then it's why, or that's why it ensures supremacy of law. Means no one, supremacy of law means no one here. Again, I am telling you that here law means what? The constitution, the supreme law. Right? No one is superior to the constitution. In general terms, no one is superior to the law. Everyone is equal in front or in the eyes of law. Right? Protection of rights of individuals. Checks and balance. Obviously, where there is separation of power, there should be checks and balance to check the arbitrary action of different organs of the state. Already I have explained. Facilitates social justice. Social justice means what? 3 types of generally constitution try to ensure 3 types of justice: social, political, economic. But mainly social means social and political justice. Though it also try to ensure economic justice, right? But first focus is social and political justice. Then tertiary focus is economic. Combinedly social, economic, political. For example, preamble talks about social, political, economic justice. Right? Promotes national unity. Obviously, national unity means what? Listen, national comes from the term nation. Right? Nation. So, what is difference between nation and country? Listen, nation, when there is some, generally it is a very broader concept, but in brief I would like to tell you, when we talk about nation, it simply means there should be some commonality among people. For example, one language, one culture, or any oneness, right? Any oneness. But in the context of India, we don't have what? Any common language, right? Any common culture, any even common food, because we have very high number of population and very rich diversity. But one thing that makes India a nation is what? It is our constitution. We all Indians have only one constitution, and that makes India a nation. We have sense of belongingness, we have sense of oneness, sense of unity. Why? Only because of constitution. And this constitution promotes national unity. Right? We are discussing in general sense of constitution. So a constitution promotes national unity. Next, guides changes and adaptation. Obviously, amendment procedure is what? Nothing but changes and adaptation procedure. Whenever society requires or people requires any change or certain demands are arisen, then what? Amendments are made in the constitution. Next, mechanism for conflict resolution. Already I told you, judiciary. Right? So judiciary is what? It is dispute resolution mechanism, or certain tribunals are there. For example, certain states have dispute related with water sharing. Right? You do know Kaveri water dispute, or so many rivers or adjoining states have what? Water related dispute. So judiciary or these tribunals are mechanism to resolve disputes. Right? Legitimization of authority. Legitimization of authority means what? From where does the state or the government derives its authority? I told you at the beginning that constitution gives authority to state, and on the other hand it gives rights to individuals. So the government or state derives their authority from constitution. They can only do whatever the constitution allows them. Right? Even just a single example, the police cannot arrest anyone in arbitrary action. Right? It has to justify the action. There are legal procedures to arrest anyone. First, the person has to be told by the police the reason why the person is being arrested. After that, there are certain legal procedures, right? Procedure of bail, right? And even in certain cases, there are a procedure of anticipatory bail. So what? It checks the action of or limits the power of state. And again, right? It legitimizes the authority of state. Lastly, promotes democratic ideals. Obviously, procedure of election, right to vote, right to contest elections, all these are given in the constitution itself. So it also promotes democratic ideals. Certain rights are there. Right? Now, we will move towards function of constitution. So you see, what are the functions? Again, same type of question may be asked, that which of the following are functions of constitution? If you know, it will take few seconds. Right? So see how we have designed the lecture. We have included each and every topic that has a high chance of framing question, or they have a high chance to come in the upcoming exam, or even if you are going to attempt next year in 2026, these topics remain static. Right? So certain functions of constitution. First, establishes framework for government, obviously. Next, legitimizes government action. Already I told you, no need to discuss again. Allocates powers and responsibilities, always powers and responsibilities among different levels of government and different organs of state. Vertical and horizontal distribution of power. Both I have already explained. Guarantees fundamental rights, obviously. That's why fundamental rights are called fundamental rights, because they are guaranteed by the fundamental law of land, that is constitution. Right? If you, again I am repeating, if you want to know about the basic concept of rights, you can watch my lecture. I will give the link in the description box. Ensures accountability and checks and balance, obviously no need to explain, I have already explained. Provides for the amendment process, obviously. Promotes social, economic and political justice. Right? Facilitates conflict resolution. Conflict resolution or dispute resolution is what? It is resolved by the judiciary. Right? Next, acts as a guide for governance. Obviously, it is. That's why I told you, constitution is what? Power map. We have started the topic of constitution with the statement that it is a power map. It clearly demarcates the power among different levels of government and different organs of state. Right? So it acts as a guide for governance. Next, it protects national unity and integrity. Obviously, right? There is means center-state relation is clearly defined by the constitution. Again, national emergencies, provision of national emergency. For example, at the time of war or external aggression, right? The emergency may be declared, and whole country is unified when national emergency is declared. Protects and promotes democracy. Obviously, free and fair election, right to vote, all these are protect democracy. Now, there are certain types of constitution, right? What are the different types? Listen, we have included these important types of constitution. Besides this, there are other types of constitution, but no need to discuss about those. We have included all the important types of constitution here, right? And we will discuss all these things orally, right? Because it is crash course, no? I have to save your time, right? So first, written and unwritten constitution. Right. So first, written and unwritten constitution. How a constitution is decided, that whether it is a written constitution or unwritten constitution, right? The basis of decision is what? Constituent assembly. Constituent assembly, right? Constituent assembly means if a constituent assembly was founded or set up to write the constitution, then it is considered a written constitution. And if there was absence of any what constituent assembly, then it is considered as unwritten constitution. For example, Britain, it has no written constitution. But here one thing I would like to tell you, that in the world, in the whole world, no country has completely unwritten constitution, or no country has completely written constitution, right? Why? Because, for example, in Britain there are certain laws, acts, legislations, right, regulations and conventions that combinedly acts as constitution. Though there is no single document that can be called as constitution, but there are certain provisions which are written in the form of acts, laws, regulations, or there are certain unwritten laws which are known as conventions. But in India, we have written constitution. Why? Because we had a constituent assembly. Right? America has a written constitution. Why? Because it also had a constituent assembly. So that is the basis to determine whether a constitution is written or unwritten. Right? Simple. Next, flexible and rigid constitution. This is also related with this. Generally what happens, that an unwritten constitution is flexible or very flexible, right? And its provisions can be amended by simple majority, just like any other ordinary law. Take example of Britain. Britain has what? Unwritten, right? Britain, unwritten law, right? Again, it has very flexible constitution. So it has unwritten law, unwritten constitution, and again flexible constitution, right? So flexible means what? Its provisions, means the provisions of constitution of Britain can be amended just like any ordinary law. Simple. Rigid constitution, take example US, right? And again US has a written constitution. So if the provisions of constitution can be amended only by simple majority, special majority, not by simple majority, then it is considered as rigid constitution. American constitution is very rigid, right? But in spite of that, till date it has been amended 27 times, right? Indian constitution is perfect blend of both flexibility and rigidity. There are certain provisions which can be amended by the parliament only by simple majority. There are certain provisions which can be amended by parliament only by a special majority. Right? Next, unitary and federal constitution. Unitary constitution means what? The constitution in which the union or central government has all the powers. Right? For example, Britain has unitary constitution. So you can easily say, but Britain has unwritten constitution, flexible constitution, and unitary constitution. US written constitution, rigid constitution, and federal constitution. Federal constitution means what? Already you do know that division between the generally different levels of government. Different levels of government means 2 or 3 levels of government. For example, union and state or provincial, whatever. That is the simple meaning of federalism or federal constitution. It divides power between different levels of government, union, state or provincial or local level, whatever. India also has what? Federal constitution, but not complete federal. Right? We will discuss the concept of federalism in very detail. Right? So, just see what is concept of federalism, and we will move towards. Then we will discuss about this rest of 3 types of constitution. Right? So this is here we are going to compare between unitary and federal constitution. First, this relation, right, means is based on nature of relationship between the national government and regional or provincial government. Right? So this type of constitution, whether it is unitary constitution or federal constitution, it is decided based on the relation between the union or central and state or regional government. Right? So unitary constitution, already I told you, all the powers are vested in one government. One government means what? That is union or center. Right? For example, Britain is unitary, or if Britain has unitary constitution, it has unitary form of government. UK, France, China, Italy. Right? These are examples. Right? Again, you should remember the countries. Why? Even UPSC can give the options in these countries in option that it may have written that Italy has unitary form of government or federal form of government. If you don't know, you will miss the mark. Next, what are the features, unitary features of Indian constitution? Right? Whenever you read certain types of constitution, you should compare this type of constitution with India. For example, I told you when we discussed the written and unwritten constitution, rigid and flexible constitution, I discussed Indian constitution there. Now we are discussing unitary features. So here you should know that Indian constitution has certain unitary features. Right? For example, in India, though we have federalism, 2 or 3 levels of government, but in spite of that, there is central government or union government which has more power as comparison to state government. Right? So just see unitary features of Indian constitution, very important. First, single constitution. Unitary features means what? Which unifies. Right? Unifies means what? It gives you can call the all the powers vested in the government of center or union. Right? So single constitution, single citizenship. Obviously, before 5th August 2019, right, one exception was there, Jammu Kashmir, which had single its own constitution and its own citizenship. But after 5th August 2019, you do know Article 370, right, has been abrogated. Right? Listen, abrogated, not deleted from constitution. It exists in the constitution, but it has been abrogated. Means what? It is in dormant mode, not active. Right? So unitary features, single constitution, single citizenship, unified judiciary. Unified judiciary means what? There is hierarchy of judiciary. For example, at top level it is Supreme Court, then high courts, and then lower or subordinate courts. This is called unified judiciary, and any judgment, law, order, right, passed by Supreme Court is automatically applicable to these lower courts, means all the high courts and lower courts. This is the simple meaning of unified or integrated judiciary. You can use the term interchangeably, right? Unified or integrated judiciary. Hierarchy of courts. And for example, if any high court passes any order, law or judgment, then all the orders, judgments passed by that high court is applicable within the jurisdiction of that state, and all the lower courts have to follow that order of high court. Supreme Court, then its order, judgment, right, whatever is passed, then it is applicable to all other courts, including all high courts of India, right? Then centers control over states. Obviously, for example, that's why this is criticized, right? But it is unitary feature to unify the country. For example, on India services, right? For example, in future when you will become IAS, IPS, right? All India officers, no? So all India service officers. So what happens, that center recruit these all India services officers, train them, but they work ultimately under the state government, right? And the center can call them at any time on deputation or central deputation, though consent of a state and the consent officer is required, but the center can call at any time, right? Again, emergency provisions, right? Governor, appointment of governor, obviously by the central government or in particular the president, right? So it is also unitary feature of Indian constitution. Next, emergency provisions, it unifies the whole country, right? Integrated election machinery. Integrated election machinery means what? Election Commission of India, right? It conducts election of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, president, vice president, and including state legislatures. Now answer my one question: who conducts the election of panchayats and municipalities or urban local bodies? Who conducts? Answer in the comment box, right? Again, Lok Sabha is more powerful than Rajya Sabha. Lok Sabha, right? Why its name is Lok Sabha? Because it represents people of India. That's why Lok Sabha is more powerful. For example, you would be knowing in the context of money bill, Lok Sabha has almost very or as comparison to Rajya Sabha, in case of money bill, Lok Sabha has high power, right? Or Lok Sabha is powerful, right? And in general sense, Lok Sabha is more powerful than Rajya Sabha. In normal sense, though they are parallel, but generally Lok Sabha enjoys more power. Why? Because it represents people of India. Rajya Sabha represents state. That's why its name is Rajya Sabha, State Council. Right? So these are unitary features of Indian Constitution. Now, Federal Constitution. Right? What is Federal Constitution? So, federalism, simply, I told you, Federal Constitution means what? There is division of power at different levels of government, right? This is called vertical distribution of powers. Simple. So, it says it follows principle of division of powers between national and regional government. This enables them to operate in their respective jurisdiction independently. Example, USA, Russia, Australia. India is not written here, right? Listen, if it is asked that whether India is a federal country, your answer should be yes or no. Your answer should be yes, but not rigid or complete federal as like USA. Right? USA has what? Watertight compartment, complete separation of complete complete division of power between legislature, executive, and judiciary. But in India, we don't have complete separation of division of power. Right? There is overlap between legislature and executive, though judiciary is independent. Right? So here, example, USA, Russia, Australia, India. What is India? You do knowing that in the Indian Constitution, nowhere the term federation or federalism has been included. It says, Article 1 says, India, that is Bharat, shall be union of states. Right? Not federation of states. Why? Union of state, it simply means the union parliament can make or break any state at any time. It can change, means alter name, area, boundaries of state. But in USA, it cannot happen. It requires consent of the state. So federalism, simply it means division of powers between national and regional or state government, right? And it is called what? Vertical distribution. Vertical distribution of powers. Vertical distribution of powers means at national level, national government, and then it comes the state government. And even in case of India, it is local government, right? Again, powers of national and regional or local governments are original. Original means, already I told you that both the union or central government and regional or state government or even local government derive their power originally from constitution, right? Simple. And already I have explained the term decentralization, devolution, delegation. Decentralization, when the regional governments derive their power from constitution, then it is called decentralization. When regional government derive their power from legislature, means union legislature, then it is called devolution. When regional power, right, or regional government derive their power by executive order of the union, then it is called delegation, right? And delegation or devolution, when there is delegation or devolution, then the powers of regional government can be taken away by the central government at any time. But in case of decentralization, the central government cannot take the powers of regional government, right? For example, in case of India, the union government in no case, in no situation can take the powers of state government for some time. In case of emergency or president's rule, okay, it can or act as a temporary government of for the state or rule the state for temporary period for few months or year, but not for the whole period, right? Now, already I have discussed the horizontal or division of powers and separation of powers, right? No need to explain. Right. So division of power already and separation of power I have already explained. No need to discuss. Don't waste your time. Right. Schedule 7, urban list, state list, concurrent list. It is among what? Different organs of state, legislature, executive, judiciary. Simple. It is called what? Vertical distribution. It is called horizontal distribution. Simple. Now, just see federalism and Indian Constitution. As I told you that in Indian Constitution or the Indian Constitution does not include the term federalism, federation, whatever, right? Simply, but it is, you would be knowing the very famous case, Keswanand Bharati case, 24th April 1973, and this case is very important. Why? Because it gave or propounded, the Supreme Court propounded a very important concept that is called what? Doctrine of basic structure, right? And under this doctrine of basic structure, the Supreme Court held in this case, a Keswanand Bharati case, that federalism, right? Federalism is basic structure of Constitution of India. Basic structure means in no situation the Parliament can amend that provision. I told you no that in no situation the central government can take away the power of state governments because they originally derived their power from Constitution. The central government does not act like father, though India has unitary federal constitution with unitary bias, right? So the central government acts as a big brother, not as a father, because the constitution is supreme, right? So again, SR Bomai case, Kuldeep Nayyar case, the Supreme Court again repeated the same sentence that federalism is basic structure of Indian constitution and it cannot be amended, right? Now, certain types of federalism you do knowing, right? Cooperative, competitive federalism, centripetal, centrifugal federalism, symmetrical, asymmetrical federalism. Right. I would explain these types of federalism here when we will compare Indian federalism and American federalism. There I will discuss. So you should know about certain types of federalism. Again, I am repeating: cooperative, competitive federalism, centripetal, centrifugal federalism, right, and symmetrical and asymmetrical federalism. These are certain types of federalism. Now, federal features of Indian Constitution. Federal means what? I told you that 2 or 3 tier of government, right? 2 or 3 tier of government means what? Union, state, or for example, in case of India, local self government, panchayats, municipalities, municipal corporations, that is also known as urban local bodies. So, first, dual government polity. But in India, we have 3 tier government: center, state, and local self government. But generally, there should be 2 levels of government. Generally, center and state, or federal or regional or regional or provincial, whatever. Written constitution. Obviously, a federal constitution should always have, a federal country should always have a written constitution. Why? To avoid the clash, the dispute between center and state. For example, 7th schedule. 7th schedule. Right. 7th schedule clearly demarcates 3 lists: union list, state list, concurrent list, so that any kind of dispute may not arise. And if it arises, then there is 7th schedule, there is judiciary, right? Supremacy of constitution. Obviously, generally what happens that in any country where there is written constitution, no, it generally establishes supremacy of constitution. And again, federalism is correlated with written constitution, supremacy of constitution. This is how you should understand. Next, division of powers at various levels. Obviously, that is the simple meaning of federalism. Independent judiciary, right? Listen, do not get confused, right? Do not have any kind of confusion. Integrated judiciary is unitary feature. Integrated or unified judiciary is unitary feature. Independent judiciary is federal feature. Again, I am repeating: independent judiciary is federal feature. Integrated or unified judiciary is unitary feature. Right? You can remember like this: unified, unitary; independent, federal. Right? And lastly, bicameralism. Obviously, bicameralism means what? For example, upper house, lower house. Lower house represents people of that state or country, and upper house represents the province or state. For example, in America, there are 100 seats for upper house, 2 seats for each, 50 seats. In India, we have Rajya Sabha, but in India, we don't have equal number of seats in Rajya Sabha for states. Right? Now, these are certain federal features. Now, just see, we will compare the Indian federalism with American federalism. Very important, even for means or prelims, whatever. Right? So, Indian federalism. How? Even in interview, it is asked that how Indian federalism is different from American federalism. First, India have cooperative federalism. Cooperative federalism means what? Simply that there is cooperation between center and state. Right? For example, GST is one of the best example of cooperative federalism. Right? All taxes have been subsumed into one tax. Now, center gives what? Share of taxes to the states. So it is what? An example of cooperative state. Again, one more thing is there, right? Competitive federalism. Right? Competitive federalism is again a good thing. Do not take it negatively. What happens that there are certain states, right? Especially after constitution of Niti Aayog, it has started issuing certain reports based on infrastructure development or other education related issues, health related developments, right, or crime related by NCRB. Then what happens that there is a competition among states. For example, you must have seen that certain states in southern part of India are doing very well, right, regarding education, health, or population control, whatever, right, as comparison to northern or eastern states. So there is a competition, and again they should take it in positive manner. They should learn or try to learn how they have achieved this kind of success. So this also ensures competitive federalism, right? Again, but America has dual federalism. Dual federalism means what? I told you that in cooperative federalism, both center and state depend on each other. Right? For example, the center makes policies, plans, schemes, or laws. State has to implement them. Again, what an example of cooperative federalism. Right? GST, cooperative federalism. But in America, there is complete independence. It is called dual federalism. Dual federalism means there is no interference or intervention of state in center's matter or center in state's matter. Right? They are completely independent. But in India, you do know, I told you, no, federal features with unitary bias. India is centripetal federalism. Centripetal federalism means what? This is, for example, this is if you are from science background, or if you have read science, technology, physics, basic concept of physics. Centripetal means what? And this is centrifugal, right? Centripetal means all the powers simply or more powers are concentrated in the hands of central government. That is the meaning of federal constitution or federal government with unitary bias. Means more powers are concentrated in the hands of union government. Centrifugal, as comparison to federal government, the state or regional governments have more power. Right? For example, state have their own flag, own constitution, own citizenship. Right? They are free to make international treaties. But in India, states are not supposed to do all these things. No, hardly any state flag, right? No separate constitution, no separate citizenship, or they cannot make any international treaty, right? Centrifugal, I already told you. Asymmetrical and symmetrical federalism. Asymmetrical federalism, simply it means that upper house in the legislature, right, does not have equal representation. For example, in India, Rajya Sabha, right? Rajya Sabha does not have equal number of seats for all states. UP has maximum number of seats in Rajya Sabha, right? And tell me which state or which states have minimum or least number of seats in Rajya Sabha? In the comment box, which states or state have least number of seats in Rajya Sabha? This is called what? Asymmetric federalism. No equal representation of states in upper house. But in USA, each and every state, whether big or small, right, have 2 seats, and there are 50 states. That's why there are total number of 100 seats in upper house of American Parliament, American Congress, right? American Parliament is known as Congress. 2 houses: Senate, House of Representatives, right? Again, India is indestructible union of destructible states. Indestructible union means union cannot be destructed, union cannot be altered, right? But destructible states means the name, area, boundaries of state can be altered by the union parliament at any time over the night, right? But USA is indestructible union of indestructible state, means neither the union nor the states can be altered, means their name, area, boundaries cannot be altered. And if states area, boundary or name is going to be altered, then states consent is required in America. But in India, no consent of state is required for alteration of their name, area or boundary, right? Though sometimes the state ask the center to change their name or whatever they want to change, right? Again, executive federalism, right? India is executive federalism. Executive federalism means what? States are important, right? States are important only at executive level. Executive level means what? The central government makes laws, right? For example, in union list or concurrent list, makes laws, plans, policies, schemes, right? And states are not consented, or except in exceptional situations they are consented. But at the state's duty is to implement these plans, policies, schemes. That's why states are important at executive level only. But in America, right, states have dominance in law making, right? For example, in India, the matter is matter about delimitation is going on, right? Issue of delimitation is going on, and again it has created a controversy. But what states, right, are raising their concern, especially from southern part, right? So how you can see how states are important at executive level only, but in America, states have dominance in law making. Last, states cannot ratify international treaty in India, but in USA they can ratify any international treaty. Right. So this was all about the concept of federalism, federal features of Indian Constitution, and comparison between Indian and American federalism. Right. Now, just see rest type of constitution. So we have discussed these three types of constitution: written, unwritten already discussed, flexible, rigid already discussed, unitary and federal already discussed, and we have discussed the unitary and concept of federal and unitary constitution in very detail. Right. Next, republican and monarchical constitution. Republican constitution means what? For example, India is a preamble says no. India is a sovereign socialist democratic republic. Democratic republic. Republic means what? The head of state is always elected. Always elected. Right. For example, in India, the president, what is head of state, and he is what? Elected. Right. That is the simple meaning of Republican constitution. That head of state is always an elected head. Right. Though he may be elected directly or indirectly, whatever. But monarchical constitution. Monarchical constitution means what? The head of a state. Right. For example, in Britain, you do know monarch. Right. Is head of a state. And what? This post is hereditary, not elected. Listen, one very small thing I would like to tell you, that monarch is an umbrella term, right? And under monarch, suppose this is monarch, no? This is monarch, right? Then king or queen. Comes under monarch. Means monarch is an umbrella term, king or queen is a type of monarchy, right? Or under monarch, right? Monarch is umbrella term. That's why you can use the term monarch in broader sense. In particular sense, if it is king, then you can use the term king. If it is queen, then you can use the term queen. But in broader sense, if you are not aware, you can use the term monarch in general. That is correct, right? That is the minor difference. So, and what I told you, that in monarchical constitution, head of a state is what? Hereditary, not elected. In Britain, the king or queen, whatever, whoever, so is not elected but hereditary. Right? Presidential and parliamentary constitution, obviously. So presidential constitution means what? It generally leads to, it means that same person is head of state and head of government. Same person. For example, in America, president is head of state and head of government. Head of state means what? Nominal head, titular head, constitutional head, right? Or de jure head, right? De jure. Listen, some standard books have mixed the term de jure with nominal. Nominal means for the namesake. De jure means by law. For example, in case of India, president is de jure head, nominal head also, titular head also, constitutional head also. But de jure means by law. By law means what? The constitution itself says no, that the president of India, right? There shall be president of India who is head of state. He is titular head. Real executive power lies in the hands of prime minister, who is what? Head of government. But in what? Presidential form of government, right? or presidential constitution, the same person is head of a state and head of government. Best example, USA. Parliamentary form of government, right? There are two heads, means head of a state, head of government. Head of government is PM, right? Prime Minister. Head of a state is president in case of India, or monarch in case of Britain. Right? That is the difference between presidential constitution or parliamentary constitution. Lastly, democratic and authoritarian constitution. Obviously, democratic constitution means what? In any constitution which has provision of free and fair conduct of election, like to vote, this is known as democratic constitution. People choose their representative, democratic constitution. Authoritarian constitution, simply you would be knowing that it is absence of any democratic principles. Power is concentrated in the hands of few people or one people, right? And there is not a rule of law but rule by law. Right? So we have discussed the type of, means concept of constitution, types of constitution, and again we have seen all this concept, means unitary, federal, and all these types of constitution in very detail, right? Now we will see what are the good qualities, right, or qualities. Let me make it bigger. Right, qualities of a good constitution. So how you can decide, or what is the scale, right, or you can say the basis to judge whether a constitution is good or not, right? So just see the certain qualities of a good constitution. First, it must be systematically written. Right, again listen, such type of question may be asked, that which of the following are qualities of a good constitution? So first quality is, it must be systematically written. Why systematically written? To avoid any kind of dispute among different levels of government or different organs of government or state, right? Second, it incorporates constitutional laws of a state and enjoys supremacy. Obviously, any good constitution incorporates constitutional laws and it enjoys supremacy, right? Next, it should have ability to develop and change in accordance with changes in the environment and needs of the people. Obviously, that's why any good constitution has provision of its amendment, so that as per the need or requirement of the society, environment, or people, it can be changed, right? Till date we have 106 amendment. That's why India, right, you can, and again you can check whether Indian constitution is a good constitution or not. So we have a systematically written constitution, obviously. Second, supremacy of constitution. Third, already it has ability to develop and change, right? That's why Indian constitution is called what? Organic or living document, right? Another feature is transformative constitution. Next, it should be neither unduly rigid, right? Unduly rigid means, for example, American constitution is very rigid, right? It is very tough to amend the American constitution. So till date, it has been amended 27 times. But you can imagine, after centuries, right? After centuries, it has been amended only 27 times, and within 75 years, we have amended our constitution, what, 106 times, almost 4 times than America, right? Nor unduly flexible. Unduly flexible means British constitution, unduly flexible. It can be amended at any time by simple majority, just like any ordinary law. So a good constitution should have perfect blend of rigidity as well as flexibility. India, best example. It must provide for fundamental rights and freedom of people. Obviously, India has, right? But we are discussing good qualities or qualities in general sense, right? Next, it should clearly define organization, powers, functions, and interrelations of government of state and its organs. Obviously, that's why it should be systematically written, right? Next, it must provide for organization of a representative, responsible, limited and accountable government. Firstly, representative government is what? Any kind, right? Means the government should have representation among the people or from the people, right? Who are our representatives? MPs, MLAs, ministers. They are our people, no? Our representatives. We have elected them, right? Again, they are responsible. For example, what? The council of ministers are collectively responsible to the lower house, that is Lok Sabha, right? Limited and accountable government. Obviously, before election, they have to answer, or in the legislature, they have to answer, right? They are accountable, answerable for their duties, functions, right? Now, there are certain things that a good constitution provide, right? It must provide, means a good constitution must provide for, right? We are discussing same. Rule of law, obviously. Decentralization of power, already I told you decentralization means independent and powerful judiciary, system of local self-government, sound method of amendment. Sound method of amendment means, right? Sound means a healthy method, right? A proper method to amend the constitution. Article 368 explains it perfectly. Provisions for free and fair election so that representativeness can be ensured. Democracy or democratic rule can be ensured. It must clearly reflect the sovereignty of people. Obviously, who is supreme? Though constitution is supreme, but ultimately power lies in the hands of people. Right? Simple, clear and unambiguous language of the constitution. But our constitution is criticized here. Why? We have included certain French or other terms. Right? That is a little bit tough for a common man to understand. But generally it is very detailed. Very detailed. Now see this. This point is also important. Right? Our constitution enjoys supreme importance. Right? Supreme importance in the state. Why a constitution enjoys supreme importance? This type of question may be framed in the prelims. Right? Now, so our constitution enjoys supreme importance in the state because it reflects sovereign will of people. Obviously, very simple. Our constitution always reflect the sovereign will of people. That people are sovereign. Right? Even constitution has or derived its power from people. As I told you, in the beginning, that it is a social contract. Right? It is not just a legal document, but a social contract. We ourselves has given to the constitution, right? That we should be governed as per the provisions of constitution. Second, it lies down aims, objectives, values, goals which the people want to secure. Obviously, right? Aims, objectives, values, all these things are incorporated in the constitution. Right? Next, it contains the description and guarantee of fundamental rights of people. Obviously, who guarantees the fundamental right? The constitution. That's why fundamental rights are called fundamental rights, no? Because it is guaranteed by the fundamental law of land, that is constitution. Right? And who is the defender of these rights? The judiciary. If in case of violation of these fundamental rights, a citizen knocks the door of judiciary under Article 32 or 226 in context of Indian constitution. Right? Next, it gives detailed account of organization of the government, obviously, and organization, powers, function of its three organs and their relationship. Means the division of power, separation of power, all these things are detailed or explained in detail by the constitution. right? That's why it is called power map. Next, in a federation lays down the division of powers between central and regional or provincial governments, obviously. Next, it specifies powers and methods of amendment of constitution, obviously. Next, it lays down election system and political rights of people. Next, it provides for independence of judiciary and rule of law. Right? All these things I have already explained. I am just repeating the importance of constitution, right? Or supremacy of constitution, why it is important in state, right? It governs all and no one can violate its rules. Obviously, supremacy of constitution means what? It governs all, including the state, government, and the people. No one can violate, or no one is supposed to violate the provisions of constitution. Lastly, constitutional morality, right? And we will end our lecture today here, right? This is very important. What is constitutional morality? So, what is constitutional morality? In simple terms, listen, this topic is related with ethics, right? In simple terms, what is constitutional morality? The morality behind constitution means no, the constitutional provisions should not be followed just in letters, but also should be followed in spirit. Right? Means the intention, right? The intention, purpose, or values, morality, right, of our founding fathers should be adhered. Right? As for example, as several times judiciary means Supreme Court has said no, that justice should not only be done, but it has to be seen to be done. Right? It should be reflected. So in the same manner, the constitution should not be reflected only, or its provision should not be reflected only, but its spirit should be reflected. Right? So simply it's just constitutional morality. It says it means reflecting institution process, right, and constitutional values. Constitutional values. Right? Even when it is inconvenient. Right? For example, there are certain provisions, right, which are not liked by you, or may be inconvenient for you. In spite of that, you should respect these constitutional values or principles. Why? Because they are what? Beneficial to others. For example, if majority and minority, right? But what happens that there are certain special rights to minorities, right? So you should respect those rights of minorities. That no, the constitution has given certain protection, certain special rights to minorities, and we should respect them, though it might be inconvenient for you. Right? Now, this concept of constitutional morality, you do knowing that it has Western origin, right? And a person or a British historian known as George Grote, right, had propounded this concept of constitutional morality in 19th century. Again, it refers to adherence to core principles and values, enshrined in a constitution, not just in literal text, right? Not just in literal text, but in spirit, right? I hope now it is more visible to you. So it means what? Respecting institution process and constitutional values. Next, it refers to adherence to core principles and values enshrined in a constitution. Again, I told you this concept was given by George Grote, British historian, right? And again, it implies commitment to the spirit, right? Commitment to the spirit behind the constitution, guiding institutions and individuals in a maintaining constitutional governance, right? So there are certain values, certain moralities, certain spirits that should guide the government, the organs of government, right, and the individuals also. Like for example, while enjoying certain fundamental rights, you should not forget that other persons have their fundamental rights too. You should respect their fundamental right too. While enjoying your freedom, you should not violate others' freedom or others' privacy. Right? This is called following the constitutional morality. While, for example, performing or delivering justice, judiciary should adhere to constitutional morality. While functioning, the government, right, should adhere to constitutional morality. They should not intervene. They should not act in arbitrary manner, because they have been given power to rule or govern the state, not to do anything they want. Right? That is the simple meaning of constitutional morality. And it is generally said that when anything, a person, right, is moral, then that it means the person is rational, right, the person is intellectual. Right, even in the face of challenges or temptation to act otherwise. Simple, that is the meaning of constitutional morality. Now, certain things, landmark judgments where this term constitutional morality, right, was adhered or popularized by Indian judiciary. You do knowing very famous case, Navtej Singh Johar case, right, versus Union of India. In this case, what, homosexuality was decriminalized, and IPC section 377 was repealed from the law of statute. Here, what, the Supreme Court held constitutional morality. Again, Sabrimala case, to ensure what was the intention or objective of the founding fathers of constitution, to ensure equality in the society. No, Article 14, irrespective of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. So here in that temple, Sabrimala temple, women were denied over the centuries, right, to enter. Right, means they were not allowed to enter in this temple, Sabrimala temple. But what happened that, following the constitutional morality, Supreme Court allowed them to enter this temple, right, to ensure what, equality, their equality. And what is it? Nothing but constitutional morality. Though it is not written in the constitution, but they went behind the bars, went behind the walls, like what our founding fathers had thought, which kind of society they wanted to create, which kind of people they wanted to create. Again, in government of NCT Delhi and Union of India, right, 2018, right, in this case again Supreme Court said that what, the government should act within their own sphere and they should adhere to constitutional morality. Simple. Now, key elements of constitutional morality. Right. So key elements of constitutional morality. Again, this question may be asked that which of the following are elements of constitutional morality, or which of the following reflects constitutional morality. You should be very clear. First, respecting rule of law, obviously. Again, due process of law. Again, constitutional morality. Separation of power, constitutional morality. Checks and balance. Already I told you, whenever there is or wherever there is separation of power, there would be checks and balance. Right? Social justice. Again, social, political, economic justice. Fundamental rights, democratic ethos, tolerance for dissent. Tolerance for dissent means disagreement. In spite of that, for example, if you have time or after becoming officer, if you got right, if you got that time, then you can read Constituent Assembly debate, and you will see that how there were debates, right? How members of Constituent Assembly were not agreed on certain provisions, right? For example, certain members of Constituent Assembly favored presidential form of government. Certain members favored parliamentary form of government, and they had dispute. In spite of that, today we have the best ever constitution in the world. One of the best constitution in the world. Right? See the condition of our neighbors. What happened to their constitution and country and people. Now, significance of constitutional morality, right? So constitutional morality, here again options may be given, and you the UPSC, right, can ask you that which of the following are significance of constitutional morality. So it upholds supremacy of constitution, obviously. Again, balances or balance of rule of power and popular will. Rule of law, sorry, I said rule of power, sorry. Balance of rule of law and popular will, right? Ensures ethical governance, obviously. Morality means what? If you have completed your GS4, then you would be knowing the difference between ethics and morality, right? No need to discuss here. Promotes social justice and equality, obviously. Strengthens institutions how? By separation of power, method of checks and balance. So this is how institutions are strengthened, right? Enables progressive interpretation of constitution, obviously. Who is the final interpreter? It is the judiciary, right? And again, while interpreting the constitution, judiciary also adheres to, right, or keeps in mind constitutional morality. Next, essential for pluralism and fraternity, obviously, right? It is also essential for pluralism in a country where what, a huge population is there. For example, India, constitutional morality has very big role, right? Again, fraternity, to maintain common brotherhood, right, communal harmony, right? Constitutional morality is very strong, or very plays very strong role. Ethical compass for civil servants, obviously. When you will become IAS officer, why do you study ethics? Right, so that your in future, when you will become an IAS officer, IPS officer, or whatever, as per your choice, you should act in ethical manner, and constitutional morality will act as an ethical compass for you, right? For example, while taking any action, you should think that, am I, right, am I responding or acting as per the provisions of constitution, or as per the values or moralities of the constitution, right? That time it will act or acts as an ethical compass. So that's all for now. In this lecture, we have discussed so many important topics of basic concept, and as you would know that time is very crucial for you. So keep revising, keep practicing, and take care of yourself, because health is also important. And we will meet in another lecture. Till then, thank you.